So if you've seen my videos before, you know I'm not usually the guy to make the DBD content update videos. I'm not very good at it, and there's people out there that make much better videos recapping changes. But when I opened YouTube today to see not one of my favorite creators had made a video about the changes coming to DBD, I was honestly a little bit shocked. These changes are huge. And some of them might not seem big, but they go so much deeper. These changes will affect so much more than you know. Updates like this and, you know, the summer meta shakeups and stuff like that, those are the updates I live for. And I can't believe there aren't more people talking about these, especially today's. And one more thing before we hop in, because I know what these comments are about to look like. If you disagree with what I say in this video, or you think my opinion is wrong, you're more than welcome to correct me. Just keep it civil. And to all the normal people out there that don't treat video game changes like life or death, I'm giving you permission to poke fun at the people in the comments that are like,
"No, this game's literally dead because I can't slug anymore."
Sorry, that hurt my throat. Let's get into the video. So let's start at the beginning. In 2016, bhvr released a game called Dead by Daylight, which was a 4v1 asymmetrical horror game. Wow, crazy, I know. But one big thing you need to know about this is it was designed to be a hide-and-seek game, and it was never designed to be a massive success. That is specifically noticeable in its code. Now, every content update that has followed has been built on extremely shoddy and extremely flawed code. That is why DBD is so much buggier than other games you play, even indie games from small studios. Especially in recent years, Dead by Daylight goes through a cycle of release new content, content barely works or doesn't work at all, try to fix content, by the time you fix it, the hype for the content is over. And this is all because of that base code. They themselves have said in an interview that if they ever wanted to fully fix this game from the ground up, they would have to restart from zero. Why? Because the day one code. To put it simply as possible, it is unbelievable that this game is still kicking. Because bhvr themselves have already admitted it's a lot harder than necessary to fix bugs in this game because it goes all the way back to day one. That's why you get the weirdest bugs sometimes. Like if you didn't know, there used to be a bug where Pig would crouch, and when she crouched, everybody on a gen around her would be granted Prove Thyself. A killer crouching leads to a survivor gen buff. Nice. And one of my favorites is there was a bug that was fixed where if Trapper pulled Dwight out of a locker, it would trigger a random skill check. Not any other killer, not any other survivor. If Trapper pulled Dwight, a random skill check would pop up. Why? We don't fucking know. And both of those bugs were in the game for so long because it's so much harder to fix bugs in a game where the day one code is horribly flawed. For years and years and years, people have been begging for a Project Health. I am on my 4th year of waiting for a Project Health from bhvr. And we're finally getting it. Now, keep in mind, this will mean delays. Content is pushed. The Blood Moon event that happened in March last year will be happening in April this year, but it is coming back, which is very exciting. It's one of my favorite events. The March Killer chapter is going to be the April Killer chapter now, and the PTB that was supposed to come out will be coming out in March. So yes, there are some delays. And I would honestly say you should probably brace yourself for those delays to be extended, because knowing bhvr and knowing how hard it is to fix things in this game, which is self-inflicted by the way, I simply do not believe 3 more weeks is going to be enough to get all this stuff in, because if it were that simple, wouldn't they have done it years ago? By the way, if you're wondering why they're doing it now, a lot of people are pointing out that they have some big licenses coming to the game very soon, the biggest being Five Nights at Freddy's, obviously, and it doesn't look good to release a character, and on day one, they don't work at all.
He's talking about the Houndmaster, by the way.
And one more thing about Five Nights at Freddy's, since most people can agree that that's going to bring massive traffic to this game. If anybody's worried like,
"Oh, bhvr's gonna drop the ball on this one."
No. They have been working directly with Scott, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, on this chapter for over a year now. And for reference, Houndmaster was worked on for a year and she leaked 9 months before she came out. So not only do they have this shit locked down tight, but also they are working on it much more extensively than they do for original chapters. or even other licenses. I personally think Dracula and Vecna were steps in the right direction in terms of working directly with the company to make the character true to source, and they have already made very clear that this is going to be an even bigger step up from that. So I genuinely, as someone who is not interested in this game at all right now, am very excited. I'm excited to get back into it. And while we're talking about killer, and since I've been in my killer main bag recently a little bit, which I'm trying, it's an illness, I know, I'm trying to shake it, but killers will now be able to surrender if all remaining survivors in the trial are bots, which I think that's fair enough. Nobody wants to play single player Dead by Daylight. And on survivor side of the surrender state, if all remaining survivors have been slugged on the ground, they will be able to surrender. Now, keep in mind, you still will get blood points, and you will not get a disconnect penalty, okay? It will just be like the trial ended right then and there. And I've got to be honest, if you have a problem with either of these, whether it's killers being able to leave if everyone's bots, or survivors being able to leave if killers obviously slugging, I think you're the audience they're trying to weed out of the game. A common sentiment in DBD back in like 2020 to 2022 was never underestimate a Dead by Daylight player's ability to make sure no one else has fun. And that's exactly what they're trying to eliminate. And I know it's very scary that you're not going to be able to tunnel or camp or hold a 3-gen or slug. But killers, this might actually mean you need to get better at the game. Scary stuff. All jokes aside, I think these are good changes because slugging has become more and more popular, as well as content creators making builds that purposefully benefit slugging. I personally don't care whether it stays or goes, but it's not fun for anyone. And this game isn't like a hyper competitive game, you know? The most optimal strat being the most annoying one probably means it should be taken out. If you see these changes being implemented and say, well, survivors should just get better and not go down or something like that, no, it's not like that. Slugging has been more rampant than it's ever been in the last year. I think this is a good change. I do think base kit UB could have been fun, like after you're on the ground for 40 seconds, you can get up, but I see why they take this route. Survivors already have a whole lot of perks base kit, and I think that they want to move away from that. Supposedly sometime last year, they were talking about base kit Kindred. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't do that. That's miserable. So killers are going to have to get better because slugging's not going to be viable, but survivors are going to have to get better because of the go next prevention. For people that don't know, going next is simply a survivor doing anything they can to get out of the game. It's not DCing because they're avoiding the penalty. It's more like throwing your first hook to death or running up to the killer and maybe pointing at a hook or something, just deliberately throwing the game to get out as soon as you possibly can. All we know about it right now is once someone tries to go next, they'll receive a disconnection penalty point and they will lose an entire grade. And you might be thinking like, that's not really a big deal, is it? Not for the average player, no, which I think is good. This will still give you the option to go next the same way you would have the option to DC, but you just can't do it over and over and over again. Because my question to those people is, why queue up for a game if you know that if it's not 2 out of the 38 killers on the roster, you're just going to DC or you're just going to go next? Then don't play the game. You are ruining it for everyone around you. I think this is a good change. And the best part about this change is if you stay really late into a game, especially a game that's going south, you will be rewarded in your next game because you will have an additional emblem-based multiplier that grants additional blood points. And I think it's a really good change that it goes into your next match, because if a game already went this south, you probably don't have the opportunity to earn as many blood points in the current trial. So they save it for the next trial, where hopefully a more normal game will allow you to get a whole lot more blood points to make up for that last game. They're pretty much compensating you for emotional damage from your previous trial, and I think that's a good change. I think that's great. Another topic of change that kind of goes hand in hand with all this is hiding and body block prevention. Whether you're a killer or survivor player, we've all been in a game where we notice that one of the survivors is throwing. They're either item swapping or locker swapping to avoid crows and purposely just waiting till everyone else dies. They're not doing anything for their team at all, and that is not going to exist anymore. Dev said today that they're going to change the way crows work completely, so it's not just about standing still, it will deliberately notice if you're avoiding engagement or avoiding the objective. This is great for killers and survivors alike because it's now going to reveal the survivor that gets crows. So if someone is just locker swapping or item swapping nonstop and not helping the team at all, not only will they be revealed with crows, but they'll also have their aura revealed when the crows happen. This change definitely benefits killers more than survivors, but don't worry, because on the survivor side, they're adding a feature. Finally, this should have been added in 2017, but better late than never, I guess. Survivors who gather crows will now lose collision. This means that if a killer corners you in the corner of the map, purposefully holding you hostage for the full hour the server is open, you can now just AFK, gather crows, and walk right past the killer. No more hour-long body blocks. Let's go, baby. Wraith mains are sobbing right now. And while we're on the topic of survivors in the trial, they will no longer spawn really far apart from each other. Again, a fantastic change in my opinion. Nothing is worse than playing an M1 killer, walking around the map, and 3 gens popping because people split pressure because they spawned on separate gens. As a non-mobile killer, there is no actual way to stop this from happening. The most you can do is kick one survivor off of one gen, and then you have the option to either go to the next gen and try to kick someone off, or chase that survivor. No matter what you do, you will be losing 2 gens instantly. This change is fantastic in my opinion. I think these are great changes. And in second story maps, you're guaranteed to spawn on the same floor, and in all maps, you're guaranteed to spawn within 12 meters of each other. And I'm a little confused what they plan to do with the offerings, because all they said is they're going to be adjusted accordingly, which that doesn't really help us know what they're going to do with those offerings. But it'll probably just be like a couple extra meters distance or something. I'm not sure. And while we're on the topic of offerings, I said this a while ago. Changing the sack ward to brown was a good change, but all that really did was force killers to never be able to bring anything but a sack ward. And out of my recent matches, it is incredibly rare to go a single game without 1, if not 2 offerings. As most of you know, you probably suffer through the Irie, the Badham, the Hawkins. It is so miserable, dude. And I said when the sack ward was changed to brown, this feels like a band-aid to something bigger. And I was right. Map offerings will now only grant a 20% chance instead of a 99.99% chance that you're going to that map. And this is a good change for both sides, because even though stereotypically survivors are the ones bringing annoying maps, I know that survivors out there are sick of going to Midwich 100 times in a row. Last week, I tried to get back on Survivor, tried to get back into it. I went to Midwich 4 games in a row. Needless to say, I am more than happy about this change for both roles. Great change. And just to stop for a second with these changes, they are going to be split up into Phase 1 and Phase 2. We're only looking at Phase 1 today, but keep in mind, Phase 2 has got some good stuff coming too. There's going to be even more anti-slug, anti-tunnel, anti-camp. There's going to be an MMR update, which I find very interesting. I'm actually kind of scared about that because I personally believe the last MMR update they did made this game significantly less enjoyable. They're also looking to change maps and keys, which keys I understand. I feel like maps are pretty strong where they're at, so we'll see what they do with that. Other changes coming in Phase 2, which is July through December, is keyboard and mouse will be usable on consoles. Custom games are going to get a facelift. Accessibility is going to be improved. We're finally getting prestige rewards. They finally realized how stupid they sounded, saying they could never do those, and they're going to make logging in more simple, which that's good. All good changes. But again, all they've said for those changes is they will be coming in the second half of the year. That's it. Other stuff we're getting that I didn't mention as closely is we're getting gamma settings, which is pretty cool. Seeing that gamma settings change made me wonder if they're ever questioning implementing first-party filters. Because I understand that at first they were like, it goes against our values. And then they said, it's not bannable, you can use them. And now I could see them potentially just enabling filters in your settings, so you don't need to go download third-party software for them. I'm not saying that'll happen anytime soon. All I'm saying is, seeing these gamma settings changes, maybe it's something they're finally going to pull out of their back pocket. Maybe not. And finally, a couple more updates coming in Phase 1 that they did not really explain fully yet would be bulk blood point spending, which is great. Everybody wants that. A new quest system, which they've mentioned before, so I'm excited to see it. More perk presets, which is great. 3 is not enough. And preview your perks in the lobby. Now, do they mean your perks as in the whole team, or your perks as in just your own? I'm not sure. I think they mean just your own. I think these are some phenomenal changes, and I am very excited for them. Dead by Daylight, to me personally, has felt very, very stale recently. I think right when the Castlevania chapter hit, I was really enjoying it. And then that rift lasted what felt like 10 years. And then the next killer we got didn't work. And even now, she's still bugged and still massively overtuned to account for her bugs. Sometimes she'll work and be really strong. And sometimes the dog will be on the other side of the map in the basement downstairs. And he will never fix himself. You will have to walk all the way over there to get your dog back. Anyways, if I missed anything or you guys have any more input, I will obviously see you guys down in the comments. Very excited to see what you guys have to say about these changes. Again, I have over 1,000 hours on both roles. I'm not here for the agenda of either role, as people swear I am. I'm not here for the fucking greater interest of either of these roles. I'm here for this game to be fun, bro. And one more thing before I go. This is only for the people that care about my future videos. You are welcome to click off otherwise. I have 2 very exciting videos coming soon. One is going to be a more detailed video about Dead by Daylight's music. I started it 6 months ago and I hated the way it turned out, but I've taken a different approach to it and I think it'll be way more exciting to watch now. And a video that's coming sooner is going to be a more extensive video, kind of like the casting of Frank Stone video, which I would love if you watch that if you haven't. Very happy with that video. But it's going to be another topic that is DBD adjacent, but not exclusively about DBD, the same way the Frank Stone video was. Anyways, thanks for sticking around to the end. I'm sorry if this video felt a bit thrown together. I promise you the next video will be bigger, better, and much more detailed, and I'll see you guys then.